What do you say to those who believe that Netanyahu decided to go to war to destroy the people of Israel, to sacrifice hostages, soldiers, and the values of the country of Israel?
I think it's ludicrous. I've been with the Prime Minister almost as much as I have been with my own wife since I have arrived here as ambassador. Anyone who would say that the Prime Minister wants this war to continue, that he doesn't care what happens, I tell you it's nonsense.
What was your response, first of all, to the interview with Ambassador Haakábī?
Well, he said a lot. I think he spoke to him for nearly an hour. A lot of things that weren't true.
In this explosive video, Media Sand takes on the U.S.-Israel ambassador and absolutely shreds him to pieces for spreading blatant lies on Piers Morgan's show. This isn't just a pushback, it's a relentless takedown, dismantling an entire hour of spin and propaganda, point by point, from Haakábī's bizarre claim about spending as much time with Netanyahu as his own wife, to parroting debunked hoaxes about Hamas and aid theft. Media Sand exposes the truth they don't want you to hear. He pulls no punches, calling out this so-called diplomacy for what it really is, a cover for an extreme, dehumanizing worldview, one that erases Palestinian humanity while shielding Israel from accountability. Don't miss a second. The final moments will leave you stunned and saying, finally, someone said it.
One thing that stood out to me was when he said he spent as much time with Netanyahu as he spent with his own wife, which explains probably a great deal why the Trump administration is so pro-Netanyahu and all in on everything Netanyahu's doing. One name you and him didn't really mention was Donald Trump. Trump has given Netanyahu, as we know, the green light to do the ethnic cleansing, to do the starvation, to do the killing. He recently said it's up to Israel to do whatever they want. But Mike Huckabee is a man who, just for your viewers watching some context, this is a man who said there's no such thing as a Palestinian, says there's no such thing as the West Bank, says there's no such thing as a settlement, says there's no such thing as an occupation. He takes a very racist, dehumanizing view of Palestinians. He's a Christian nationalist, Christian Zionist who supports Israel for theological reasons. And in that interview with you, I just want to pick up a few things very quickly. The number of barefaced lies the ambassador told. He said multiple times Hamas is stealing the aid. As you pointed out, the New York Times spoke to multiple Israeli officials who say there is no evidence of systematic stealing of aid by Hamas. In fact, USAID, the US government's own aid department, did a study showing Hamas is not stealing the aid. The European Union did a study showing Hamas is not stealing the aid. The aid is being stolen. It's being stolen by gangs who are linked to Israel. So he's lying when he talks about Hamas stealing the aid. I was amazed to see him talk about beheaded babies and babies burned in ovens, which, as you know, Piers, because you got caught in that early on, was absolute bullshit put out by the Israelis. It's a complete lie. Not only did he lie about babies being burned in ovens, an ambassador of the United States at this point, 22 months later, telling that debunked hoax, he even claimed that it was done on video. Which is not true. Show us the video. It doesn't exist. He also lied about the Israelis giving warnings to people before they bomb them. Every human rights group in the world says that's absolute BS. The Baka Cafe in Gaza City was bombed just last month. 30 people killed. A seaside cafe where they're having a children's birthday party. A boxer was killed. A sports star was killed. Children were killed. No warning given. They dropped a 500-pound bomb on a crowded seaside cafe. And then, of course, he lied about Anas al-Sharif and his crew. He said that the evidence points to them being Hamas. As you pointed out, no one who's looked at any of the evidence provided by Israel says that's evidence of Hamas. All he had was that, he was spotted taking a picture with the leadership of Hamas. So if you stand next to an accused terrorist or someone on the American terrorist watch list, that makes you a target, because I would point out Mike Pompeo is in a picture standing next to the Taliban. Donald Trump is in a recent picture standing next to the former leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria. Is that what we're now classifying as a justification for killing someone?
A lot to unpack there. I think one of the more interesting things that's come out in the last 24 hours are the words, once again, of the finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, saying that his plan, as a direct quote, his plan is for large parts of Gaza to remain under our control and sovereignty, and we can settle them. And that this has been, I know it's been a fear that you have expressed from day one of this, after October the 7th, that actually Israel and its hard right government ministers would move to try and take over Gaza and indeed the West Bank. You know, when you hear people like Smotrich, it's very hard to dispute that's exactly what he wants to do.
It's very hard to dispute that this is a genocide and this is ethnic cleansing. I mean, they have said this on the record time and time again. US officials can come and dress this all up and talk about Hamas, but they've made it clear it's not about Hamas. It's about making Gaza Jewish again. These are their words. As you mentioned, Smotrich has said this. Ben Gvir has said this. Eliyahu, the heritage minister, just said recently, we're wiping out Gaza. We're going to make it Jewish again. Everyone's going to have to leave. Donald Trump himself, by the way, Mike Huckabee's boss, has said everyone has to leave and they can't come back, is what he said to Fox in one interview. Huckabee, as I mentioned, is a Christian Zionist. He is a hardcore evangelical who, if you had asked him about that, would probably support that stuff. I mean, his worldview, messianic worldview, is based on all of the Jews coming together in the Holy Land, taking all the land, and then Jesus comes back. I mean, that's not something they hide. In fact, Huckabee, Piers, was at an illegal West Bank settlement, Shiloh, in May, and he visited 5 heifers, 5 red cows sent from Texas, I believe, which I believe is part of the prediction, the prophecy for rebuilding the temple and bringing back the Jewish Messiah. I mean, this is the kind of circles he moves in. These are the kind of beliefs and views he shares. And it's very worrying that Donald Trump, we know, Piers, you and I, is not a religious man. He's not a big Christian, but he's filled his administration with these kind of messianic folks, these Christian evangelicals who say Israel right or wrong. You've got the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, just went to Israel a few days ago, I think, and he visited an illegal West Bank settlement. You didn't get a chance to talk about the West Bank with Huckabee, which he believes is not occupied. You have 2 American citizens, Piers, killed in the West Bank in the last 30 days by settlers. Mike Huckabee is the American ambassador to Israel, as he proudly told. He's I'm America's ambassador to Israel. What's he done for them? They're American citizens. Isn't that the job of the U.S. ambassador to Israel, to protect American citizens in that country or in occupied territories by that country?
Mehdi's follow-up here doesn't just corner Huckabee. It digs the hole so deep there's no way out. Piers brings up Israel's own finance minister openly talking about keeping Gaza under Israeli control and settling it. And Mehdi wastes no time connecting the dots. This isn't about Hamas. It's about remaking Gaza demographically. And they're saying it out loud. He names ministers one by one, quoting their own words about wiping Gaza and making it Jewish again, shattering any illusion of diplomatic cover. It's hard to overstate how damning it is when people in power stop hiding their ethnic cleansing agenda. Then Mehdi ties it back to Huckabee's own ideological roots, a hardcore Christian Zionist who sees Israel not as a partner in peace, but as a prophetic chess piece in some end times fantasy. He even brought up the bizarre moment when Huckabee visited an illegal settlement in the West Bank to inspect 5 red cows linked to a biblical prophecy, which, in short, means that after occupying the West Bank, they would begin building the temple to fulfill what is stated in the Torah, bringing the Messiah, with this temple being built on the site of the Muslim mosque after demolishing it. Can you imagine that? It's a moment that clearly shows just how disconnected this mindset is from human suffering. Finally, Mehdi drives home the hypocrisy. Huckabee calls himself America's ambassador to Israel, yet when 2 American citizens are murdered by settlers in the West Bank, he says nothing. No outrage, no action, no protection. For someone who flaunts that title, it's a stunning moral and professional failure.
Yeah, listen, I think the aggressive expansion of settlements in the West Bank is a crime. I made no pretense of that since they've been doing this throughout the last 2 years. What did you make of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation spokesman interview? Because there's a lot of misinformation being thrown around about the UN and the way they operated the food. That, as I said to the ambassador, and as he rightly picked up on, the New York Times did an extensive report which said that there was no evidence of systematic theft by Hamas. However, I'm under no illusion that, of course, Hamas would probably try and take as much as it could get its hands on, and I would assume they've been doing that reasonably regularly. There was just no evidence of a systematic thieving of all the UN food. Do you think the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a force for good in Gaza because it's getting some food to Gazans, or do you think it's not a force for good?
So in terms of getting food to Gazans, let's just debunk something both the GHF guy and Huckabee said to you. They keep saying 110 million meals. That's since the end of May. We are in the beginning of August. When you do the math here in the US, you need for 3 meals a day, right? For 2 million people, you need over 400 million meals in that time space. By the way, these are meals that have no water, no fuel. So you get the food, you can't cook them. You don't. How are you supposed to cook them? What are you supposed to drink with them? You don't get any water or fuel from the GHF. Just these prepackaged meals. And it's enough meals to cover, as they say, 110 million meals. But what you actually need are 400 million meals. So really, they've only provided a quarter of as much food as the people need and without any water or fuel. So they're just selective cherry picking of stats without any context. In terms of your question, let me answer it directly. No, it's not a force for good. It is a force for evil. And that is not a word I use lightly, Piers. I'm not one of these people who throws around evil all the time. But what we have seen in the last few weeks at these GHF sites is evil. You are seeing people, hungry people, coming for food, starved by Israel. And then when they come to the sites that they're told to come to get the food, they are then shot at and killed, right? Killed, hundreds of them. And by the way, again, they keep saying, well, we don't know what happened, misinformation. Actually, no, The Guardian just did an investigation over the weekend. People can go read it. Based on 30 different videos, they've identified Israeli gunfire at Palestinians at these sites. We have Israeli soldiers telling Haaretz, we were told to fire on people at the aid sites. We have American contractors who told the Associated Press, we saw our colleagues opening fire, live ammunition on Palestinians. How evil do you have to be to have starve people and then tell them to come get aid in the middle of a war zone? These GHF sites are in the middle of a war zone, and then shoot and kill them as they come to get the aid. I mean, that is, you think about Rwanda, you think about the Balkans, you think about the worst genocides in the last 50, 60, 70 years. This is up there with them, if not beyond. It's the most evil thing I have seen in my life in recent years.
This ugly face is nothing new for Israel. The only difference is that there used to be a media cover-up, whether on TV channels or social media platforms. If it weren't for Chinese TikTok, none of this would have spread, which is what forced Facebook and Twitter to lift the bans on accounts posting about Israel's crimes. This is what used to happen, but since we're in America, we didn't know about it. And the same goes for Europe. Mehdi ends this by ripping away the last shred of humanitarian PR cover groups like GHF try to hide behind. The math alone exposes it. Bragging about 110 million meals sounds impressive until you realize it's barely a quarter of what Gaza people needed in 1 month, with no water or fuel to even make them usable for survival. When you pair that with credible investigations from The Guardian, Haaretz, and the Associated Press showing Israeli soldiers firing on starving civilians at these aid sites, it's impossible to see it as anything but calculated cruelty. At that point, the debate isn't about misinformation. It's about whether people are willing to look this level of brutality in the face and still call it something other than evil. And when Haakábi keeps defending this, brushing off violence and hiding behind selective stats, it's not diplomacy. It's complicity dressed up as policy. That's the kind of bias that isn't just dishonest, it's straight up deadly. And that's exactly why it needs to be called out for what it is. And now, are you tired of getting only part of the story from partisan news sources? One outlet says one thing, another says the opposite. So how do you know what's true? That's where my channel comes in. It allows you to compare coverage from across the political spectrum, left, right, and center, so you can see the full picture instead of just an echo chamber. Click the subscribe button under the video to get deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed and think independently. See you.